Well, good evening, everybody. I am Ryan alongside Caleb here, Michigan Storm Chasers. This is going to be our second, technically third, but second official podcast episode. We do this every Wednesday night in the off season, October to about March or whenever it picks up severe weather again. So this is episode number 2, we're going to call it. Our last week was coverage of Hurricane Milton, the landfall. So it didn't really count as a podcast. But tonight we're going to go into a little bit more in depth about perhaps who we are and also answer your guys' questions. In fact, the theme of this episode is going to be Q&A. We have about 20 or so questions that have been asked in the groups that we manage and the page comments, stuff like that. And also here on YouTube, if you guys have questions, feel free to drop those in chat when we ask you guys. We're going to answer some of the most asked questions that we get a lot, not just, on severe weather days, but like off season, stuff like that. Some things are personal, some things are weather related. We're just going to try and get more, put ourselves out there and just kind of answer some of your guys' most asked questions. So let's go ahead and shout the chat out here. We got Mista, we got Joshua, Ashley, Tommy, Summer, Cindy, Jacqueline, Jeff, J-Bot, Madison, Dawn, Axe, and Joey. What's going on, guys? Good evening to all of you. How have you guys been this past week? It's been pretty quiet, nice and cold this week here in Michigan. Let us know how you guys are doing. So the order of the podcast here, we're going to dive right into some Q&A here after we talk with you guys for a little bit. And go ahead and feel free to drop some questions here in chat. We'll go ahead and scroll back up to when we first started if need be and grab some of those questions and come back to them and circle back around as needed. So if you have questions, drop those in chat. We'll be looking. And then also, I just want to go ahead and drop 5 gifted memberships to start the stream. We have that ability. It's the new month, so we can drop some memberships for you guys. Those are free on us, and they do expire in 30 days. If you want to continue your membership, you have to renew that yourself. So just get to those, and they go to Tamara, AF1102, Kathy, Jim, and Sarah. So congrats, guys. Members do get exclusive forecasts, as well as other exclusive discount merchandise for codes and stuff like that. So we do get you guys some perks there. Alex mostly does the forecast. I had to do the forecast today as Alex is on vacation, but you do get those as well. All right, pop back up the chat here. Let's go ahead and dive in. I guess we probably should hop on the good old list of questions we have. Now, we posted about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we posted again today. We had some questions get asked, not too many though. First one is from Alex, and she asks, how do you identify the difference between scud clouds and tornadic clouds? Is there anything that looks like a spout coming from the sky? So, Alex, that is a great question. Now, we did not prepare for this. This is all impromptu, so to speak. So we didn't have any examples to give you.
I might have one. Hang on.
Okay. But overall, the difference between a tornadic cloud and a scud cloud. So most of our tornadoes come from what we call a wall cloud. That is a low-hanging, rain-free base that is on the south and usually west side of a thunderstorm. And what that basically is, usually, is a wall cloud is slanted toward the rain core. So you're going to see a little bit of a slant to it. And it's typically, a healthy wall cloud would be smooth in nature. An unhealthy wall can have like some scuddy base to it. Mm-hmm. But that's a wall cloud. That's what tornadoes form underneath. Now, a scud cloud is, you sometimes do have scud clouds, or scud, should we say, building into a wall cloud. And that's why we also say it's slanted toward the rain. That rain-cooled air can form into scud-like clouds and get pulled into that updraft. And then it can kind of build on the base. So it's kind of confusing sometimes, but most of the scud that we see is usually, one, it's not attached to anything. So if you're looking at a scary looking cloud, look above it and see if it's attached itself to the storm base itself. A lot of scud can happen also on the leading edge of storms. So if it's on the leading edge coming at you, it's most likely not tornadic.
Yeah, and another good example is look at the appearance of it. A scud cloud will often appear motionless, but also really jagged. It'll have a lot of edges to it. Versus a tornadic funnel will be really smooth in nature, really cylindrical. But if you look at it, a funnel cloud will actually be rotating counterclockwise.
Mhm.
While a scud cloud may dance around and may move around, but it's not rotating. There may be some rising motion. Oftentimes, scud is associated with moisture that is condensed that is being pulled up into the storm's updraft. So a lot of times you do see rising motion, but it's not rotational. It's just rising. So those are some key differences. I wish I had a good example to show you, but I couldn't find what I was looking for. But based on that description, that's kind of what you're looking for. A smooth, condensed funnel versus a real jagged funnel. If I find my example, I may bring that up here later in the podcast for you. I'll keep looking for it.
And I'll add one more thing to that. If you're looking at a point of a storm and you're wondering, I wonder if that's, is that rotating or is it scud? If you can't for sure tell, it's probably not rotating, because when we look at storms that are rotating, it's pretty easy to see that, hey, this is rotating. And also not all motion is rotation as well. So
Right.
That's another way you can kind of tell. So thank you, Alex, for that question. Next question here. I see a few of you guys here in chat asking questions. We'll kind of bounce back and forth. I have a list on my phone here that I've screenshotted from our post, but also a few of you guys here asking questions. Number one, I see Axe asks, what's the most amazing thing you have witnessed out chasing or stargazing? That's a great question, Axe. And the honest answer for that is, for me personally, the aurora. There is something about seeing the northern lights that does not, something that I feel, or I guess feel moved, I guess, that it just doesn't happen with storms. The aurora is definitely on like another level for me. It's humbling. It's really cool to see. It harms nobody. Like tornadoes, they can take out property, they can kill people. Aurora, there's really nothing that there's nothing the aurora can do to harm people. Now we can talk about the power grid effects and stuff like that, but it takes an extremely strong geomagnetic storm to make that happen. So really, there's really no threat to human life. So I'd have to say, for me personally, the aurora. Anytime we get really vibrant shows, that's the most amazing thing that I personally have witnessed.
Yeah, I'd have to build on that. Probably the same thing. As much as I enjoy, chasing a good tornado or a really good storm structure, probably still the coolest thing I've seen is there's nothing more awe-inspiring than being underneath a pillaring aurora, looking right up into the pillars. I mean, it's just mesmerizing. It looks like an oil pastel painting. It's just magnificent, and just looking up into the colors, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's peaceful. It's really tranquil. As intense as tornadoes are, and just as awe-inspiring as they are to watch and follow, the aurora, like what Ryan said, it's not going to kill somebody. Auroras aren't dangerous. They're just mesmerizing and really peaceful. Really, it's just an awe-inspiring sight. And seeing it for the first time last year and seeing it several times since, you just can't get enough of it. And knowing that you're only going to see this for a couple more years as we're in solar maximum before we're going to get into maunder minimum here in a few years, I want to see it every chance I can get, just because here in a few years, the sun is going to get pretty quiet as part of its natural cycle, and we're not going to see it very often. So though tornadoes and severe weather come every year, the aurora does not. So I want to be able to catch those opportunities when I can.
Right. And we're not going to have as many viewing opportunities. We probably had like 7, 8, 9, 10 days this year where we had really vibrant statewide shows.
Yeah.
That's rare, guys. This is the once, probably maybe a 6 to 12 month stretch where we're seeing these things repeat themselves, but we're going to start gradually declining. And by the time we get to solar minimum, we're not going to have much of any chances at all. So definitely enjoy it while you guys can.
Yeah, we peak in 2025. So 2025, 2026, we'll see them. But once we get past 2026, it's going to gradually decline as that sun begins to quiet down. So,
Thank you, Axe, for that question.
Yeah, good question.
Dominic, any predictions for winter? Yes and no. Officially, we're coming out to a forecast very soon. We'll have it out for you guys by November 1st. But right now, Caleb and I just talked about this today. Actually, we're sitting here
Mhm.
behind the scenes, kind of preparing and planning and working out our day. We both kind of feel overall it's not going to be as snowy as we first originally thought. And that is mainly because of what we call the Enzo pattern. We're not going to go too in depth with it right now. We'll go in depth at the forecast time. It'll come out between now and the 1st of November. But overall, we at the start of the we'll say the end of summer, start of fall, we really thought we might be seeing a little bit above average winter. Right now, we're kind of leaning to the opposite of that. Personally, I think we're going to start slow this winter. I think it's going to be a bit warmer than average, drier than average. But I do think by the time we roll into January, February, we're going to probably have some cold snaps, just like typical winter. But overall, I'm not really expecting too much in the way of a significant snowfall.
And that could change here too. Um, Personally, with that being said, the pattern and trends that we're seeing right now, I'll give you guys a little bit of a hint. We talked about this last podcast as well, but the way we look at Enzo and what Enzo stands for, really what it means is we look at the ocean temperatures across the equilateral Pacific, and that influences those waters influence the way the jet stream is positioned throughout our winter across the northern hemisphere. And when we look at trends through that, we look at not only the equatorial Pacific, but also the northern Atlantic and the northern Pacific. Those three regions are key in how the jet stream responds during wintertime. And what we were seeing were, well, we thought we were going to see one pattern that was going to influence our weather in a way to where we would have the gates wide open for cross polar flow, and that would bring cold Canadian Arctic air down for longer periods of time. But what we're seeing now is that it's trending to where those doors may not be open for a long period of time before they shut again. So with that being said, we may see brief shots of cold Arctic air, but right now the question is how long will that cold air last and what are the repercussions from that? Are we going to see brief shots here and there like we did last year? Or are we going to see stretches where we're in a negative phase for a long period of time? Those are still details that we're looking at right now, but right now it's trending towards where the door may be open for a few days at a time before it closes again. And so those are still details that we have yet to work out. But we should have an update here. Probably the first week in November is what we're targeting for our 2024-2025 winter outlook. So stay tuned. The good news is we will get snow. That's a given 100%. We're going to get snow. It's just how much, how long, we don't know. So we hope to have those questions better realized here in the coming weeks as we see that data come in. But we will get snow. Don't worry.
Got a question here from Joshua. Any more warm days left? So
Absolutely.
Joshua, you got to define warm. Are we talking 80s, talking 90s, or are we talking like 70s here?
If you like 70s, you're going to love this weekend, come Friday and Saturday. We're going to get a shot statewide to be, even tomorrow, statewide is going to be right around 60, 62 degrees. So feel free to enjoy that as those days are definitely numbered just because it's going to get harder and harder to get that warm air north. So as we transition in the fall, our warm days are dependent on warm air transport from the Gulf of Mexico. We don't have the daytime heating component like we do in July and August. So a lot of our heat is generated from the sun in those months. And in the wintertime, we have to have big, large-scale upper-low systems pulling that warm air north from the Gulf of Mexico. So that's how we get warm this time of year. And it's starting to get harder and harder to get that warm air from Florida to here. And so the good news is here this weekend, statewide, we're going to see chances at 60s and even some low 70s come Saturday. And so although those days do happen, they're going to become very few and very far between. So those days are definitely numbered. So enjoy them while we have them.
Yep. Summer with a good question here. What is the most fulfilling part of what you guys do at MSC? Summer, that is an excellent question. And I think it's different for everybody here who's on staff. I think you're going to ask, the 6 of us, 7 of us here on staff. You're going to ask our partner chasers, all 11 of those guys. You're not going to get the same answer twice. For me personally, the most fulfilling thing is just knowing that we're helping you guys and helping the community out. We talked about this on the first episode. If you want to go back and watch that, I don't exactly know the time frame in the exact video, but I mentioned there was 2 dates this year that really kind of put everything into perspective for me personally. Grand Blanc, February 27th, and the May 7th Portage tornado. And that is because after those events, the following days, we had an outreach of, I'm going to say probably close to 100 plus people each day, who messaged us, the page, MSC, and just gave us their story about how they were watching us, or how our warnings, how we walked them through it, how this, how that, how we did this, how we did that. It's really put in perspective for me and really humbled me as to how big this page and MSC has become. And that those two moments this year really stuck out to me and kind of made me realize, hey, this is not just, a storm chasing group or a club anymore. This is something that we are doing that's really helping the community, helping Michigan, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm humbled by that. It's also, I don't think it's fully, hit me yet that this is actually this big. So I'd say for me personally, it's that, and just knowing that we're making a difference in helping people in the warning process, and also helping NWS as well, because we're not the ones who issue those warnings. We're just communicating those to you. And we can see the radar, we can see what's formed, we can see how the storm's evolving. We can communicate all that. But at the end of the day, the real lifesavers are those who issue the warnings at NWS, because those are the main driver of what we can say, hey, there's a tornado warning now. You got to take shelter. So it's more so just working in conjunction as a whole, as a community, weather community, and just knowing that we're making a difference and impact with you guys as well.
Yeah, because if we're in the right place at the right time, we say the right things, we show you the right pictures, the right storms. But if you guys don't get the warning and you guys don't get the shelter, what was it all for?
Mm-hmm.
So having that realization to where you guys got the warnings, the NWS did their job, they got them issued in time, having that information relayed, and bottom line, knowing you guys were safe, you guys acted, you responded. There's no greater calling than that. Knowing that you guys got the warning, you guys were safe. That's really what it comes down to. And also knowing, probably my favorite part of the job is I love education and I love educational things. So having opportunities to where if someone has a question or there's a way I can improve something, there's no better calling than knowing that, hey, you guys learned a little bit today. You're never done learning. And when you have opportunities to where you can learn or see something new, or whether that's a new experience, a new term, whatever the case may be, knowing that you guys came, I'm trying to think of how to word this. I guess at the end of the day, knowing that if you guys learned something or you guys grabbed something that you took away, something that stuck out, to me, that means the most, is knowing that you were able to learn something and enjoy it along the way. That's awesome.
I completely agree with that. All right. Some more questions coming in here. Dominic asks, what could the 2025 severe weather season look like? Dominic, I don't want to kick this, but we are way too far out to say specifics. A very early look would be kind of how the Enzo pattern, the oceanic temperatures are favoring jet stream positioning, stuff like that.
Yep.
I don't think it's appropriate to give you guys an exact forecast.
And it's not because we don't want to tell you. It's because we don't have the answers to tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
We could tell you what climatic models look like now, but here's the thing: if we tell you what they're trending now, the chances are they're not going to be trending that way tomorrow.
Right.
And so, just like we can't exactly release our winter forecast yet because we're waiting on a couple data points, we can't release what spring will look like for 2025 yet, just because we're too far away. We don't know what those oceanic SSTs are going to do, come December yet. We don't know. And so as we get that data closer to spring of 2025, we'll have those numbers, we'll have that data, we'll have the trends, and then we can kind of put together a forecast. Okay, how active are we going to be? Are we going to see severe storms? When? Where? As we get closer, we'll have more of that data, and we'll be able to put an outlook together. But right now, it's just too far away. You'd be shooting in the dark.
Yeah.
But good question, though.
Okay, got two questions here. I got one from Rhombus coming in. Were there any waterspout sightings? Any idea of when the next good chance could be coming into stream? Apologize, already asked. Nope, Rhombus, you're good. So over the past couple of days, I don't have an exact number, but yes, there were waterspouts reported, especially in southern Lake Michigan. I think Caleb's already on trying to figure out if there is any official number.
Looking.
Yep, I figured. So if Caleb will look at that, but overall, yes, there were. We had one, perhaps two, come on shore near the Holland area. We have video of that on our page if you haven't seen it already. Might scroll back a few days, but overall, there have been multiple. Yes. Next good chance, I don't know of anything upcoming. We're pretty quiet in terms of our source of lift, like low pressure system, stuff like that. We have to wait a few weeks, but overall, nothing short term.
All right, so the International Center for Waterspout Research does not have a total number published yet, but there were at least several dozen waterspouts reported across the Great Lakes here. And as we get in the fall, this is peak waterspout season on the Great Lakes. This is when we typically see them the most. And the reason for that, the Great Lakes are warm. There's a lot of relative warm water there, all pooled together. And when you get a combination of really warm water, followed by deeper, colder fall-like systems that move over the lakes, you have a difference in temperature. And so that difference in temperature, when those cold core lows move over the lake, you have instability over the lake. So waterspouts love warm, moist air. And when you have rising air off the Great Lakes because they're warm air rises. So you have moisture and lift, and that center of low pressure adds the instability factor for you to get lake effect showers. And when you combine those together, the rising air, a lot of times on the lakes, there's convergence. So you have difference in wind speeds and directions of the waters. So you can get some surface spin. So when that rising air interacts with that, you can get what's called a waterspout. And that forms from the ground up, from the surface up, not from the cloud down. The storms themselves aren't rotating. But through that convergence, you get a little bit of spin, just like a land spout or dust devil, but in this case, it's over water. And so that's why we see that a lot in the fall versus the springtime. In the springtime, we get those cold, low-pressure systems moving over the lake. But the difference is those lakes are stinking cold. Like they had ice on them a few weeks ago. You don't have that warm water that's evaporating into the air. It's still cold and condensed, so you don't get water spouts very often in the spring like you do in the fall. And a lot of it has to do with how warm the water is. That's the key ingredient in waterspout development. So as we move, as the waters are still warm, yes, there will be more chances for waterspouts here this fall as we get more of those cold core lows that move over the lake and add that lift component. Yeah, we're not done yet. We'll see some more.
Tracy asked a good question here. Scariest, most difficult situation you've been in while chasing?
I answered mine last week in case you missed it. So Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot this time. If you guys want to hear mine, I encourage you to go back to the podcast from last week. We actually did an excerpt of my story, and we have it as an individual segment. I highly encourage you to listen to that just because it's the realization of what being a storm chaser is, the ugly side of storm chasing. You'll definitely want to give that a listen. But for this question, I'm going to let Ryan answer it this time.
I'm going to drop that link to the video in the comments here if you guys want to check it out.
Yeah. I highly encourage you to give it a listen. I will give you a warning that it's not bright and sunny. So
no,
it's worth a listen to.
I can't match what Caleb talked about last week. I can't. I've been chasing storms for 10 years. Don't know the exact number, but I would say there's been a few situations where I've been in when chasing that have been scary, so to speak. I would say the main thing that can stick out to me right now, I mean, aside from chasing in Portage when that tornado went through earlier this year, I didn't know the magnitude of that tornado. In fact, I couldn't even see the thing for 95% of my chase. So there really wasn't any, scare factor other than knowing that, hey, something's in the rain there. I just can't see it. But there is one situation, two situations that I can talk back to about what kind of, I guess, kept me on the edge of my seat. And that was the Colin tornado of last year, not this year, but last year. There was a tornado that hit Colin, which is a town in Branch County. I know it's a funny name for those of you who are not familiar. It's a county, or it's a town in Michigan. But I was coming from west to east, and it's 11 o'clock at night, pitch black, can't see anything. And we had just wrapped up our stream. That was actually one of our first streams at MSC here as well. And Joel was out chasing, Nick was at home, and Nick had to go to bed because he had to work in the morning. He had to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, so he didn't want to stay up too late. And he went to bed, left the stream on radar only, while I was out chasing with Joel somewhere, in the Southwest Michigan area. And then there was one storm that just wouldn't die, and I was chasing from about Three Rivers all the way over to about the Colin Coldwater area. And just as I got between two towns called Nottawa and Mendon, I stopped on the side of the road as the storm was gaining intensity. And I got out of the vehicle and I looked to my southwest, and there was like an illumination of a big lowering, and it looked like it was a funnel cloud. So I lined up with radar. Sure enough, I'm looking at the wall cloud here, and as lightning's flashing, I start seeing it take like this bowl shape, like a funnel shape. At that point, I know, hey, this thing is probably about to touch down. So I call NWS in northern Indiana. I let them know, and within about 2 or 3 minutes after that phone call, they slapped a tornado warning on it. I continued eastward with the storm. I had no visual on it. I'm driving east. The tornado would be on my south and behind me, and I lose service because out there is pretty rural. There's no real good cell service out there. As I'm entering the town of Colin, the entire sky on the horizon lights up. It's a power flash. Transformer or power lines are going down. At that point, I realized this is a tornado because it's not a very powerful storm. It's one of those low top storms. It's not windy. It's dead calm. It's just sprinkling. I'm on the backside of the storm. At that point, I know this is likely a tornado on the ground. This is either a huge coincidence of like a squirrel getting zapped in a transformer, or there's a tornado on the ground. And as I'm driving through town, the power's off, power comes back on, another power flash happens. And with that power flash, I see the shape of the funnel cloud in front of me. And at that point, I'm like, there's something on the ground. About 30 seconds later, up the road, come across a storage shed that had been hit, and debris was just tossed all over the place, into the field, into the road. And at that point, that was one of the situations where I'd say it was probably the creepiest, because I didn't know driving into that town that there was going to be a tornado that's going to cross in front of me. I had the idea. I knew there was rotation. I knew it was a funnel cloud, but where it was, I don't know. I didn't have radar data, and that's also one of the dangers of storm chasing at night, because you're not always going to see the thing. You can't rely on cell phone data. You can't rely on radar. You can't rely on lightning to always be there. And actually, there's also a video of that whole entire encounter as well. It's on YouTube and Facebook. In fact, if you go to our main YouTube page, you may already see the video. It's actually, if you go to our main YouTube page, in fact, I can go and share my screen. Yeah, at least it should be. I guess it's not pinned. But if you go back here, I don't know. It should be featured. Usually it's featured right here at the main center page there. It's basically I think it's 2024 hype video or something like that it's called. So that's basically what MSC is all about. Live eyes on the storm, somebody streaming and is communicating that there's something happening. And that's what MSC, that's one of the first streams that really gained us popularity, as I think we had like 750 people watching us at the time. It was something super small like that. But yeah, if you want to watch that video, if you type in on our YouTube page 2024 hype video, it will take you to that whole encounter of that situation. And I can also say the other one I can mention, a very short, brief version, is my first ever tornado, actually. First Michigan tornado as well. I was up in the town of Kingston, up in the Thumb, and we were chasing that cell for probably 2 hours or so. And finally, it put down a tornado. But as I'm entering the main road that we have in the rural thumb of Michigan, the tornado was weakening, but as it did so, it crossed and it hit a structure of some sort that I had no idea what it was. And all I could see was just debris being flown in the air in front of me. And there's cars coming at me too from the distance, and they're driving right into this thing as it's crossing the main highway. And I just didn't know what it was hitting. I didn't know, what I was going to drive up to. And that was another situation where it kind of struck me as like, what am I driving into here? What am I going to see when I come up there? Luckily, it was a weak tornado. It only hit a shed and it took a roof off a garage and it flipped a trailer. But overall, it could have been much worse, and I'm thankful it wasn't worse.
Mm-hmm.
But that was way too long. I apologize for dragging that out. But those would be my two stories of what would be the most memorable, I guess, chases for me, or scariest chases. All right. Any possible hurricanes to hit us from the south? Here in Michigan? No. Nope. We are watching tropical depression or tropical system or invest, I think they call it 94L. That's still out in the ocean. And right now, the track and intensity is currently unknown.
Now, the invest is not posing a risk for Florida. That cold front that brought us our really chilly temperatures and lake effect showers and snow yesterday is on its way south. And that frontal system also left a lot of wind shear across the Gulf of Mexico and across central Florida. It's highly unfavorable right now. But what that's also doing is acting as a shield. So that invest is coming into the Caribbean right now. And the National Hurricane Center did actually have a higher probability on that developing into something the other day than what it does now. It dropped it to now 40%. So with that being said, there's a 60% chance that it's not going to do anything. But also with that being said, that cold front is not going to allow that thing to go north. It's actually going to steer it south and away from the continental United States, likely somewhere in Central America. And there's a picture of it there. So that orange invest is the one I'm talking about there. If it were to develop into something, it would be Nadine. But right now, it's looking highly unlikely. It's going to likely remain very unorganized at best, tropical depression, tropical storm. If it does become a hurricane, it likely won't until it reaches probably the Eastern Caribbean or Western Caribbean. And that's because of how much wind shear is present in the Gulf of Mexico right now and across South Florida from that cold front. It's highly unfavorable, and that cold front is acting as a shield. That's going to keep it south and to keep it away from the continental United States. So for right now, there is no immediate risk to the U.S. So that's good, especially good news for Florida too. They don't need anything else
No, they don't.
for a while.
They really don't.
So they really don't. So that's good news there. Tropics pretty quiet right now. A couple invests out there, but no immediate risk to the continental United States. So good news there.
Yeah, if you guys have clear skies, look west right about now. You might see the comet. In fact, I'm going to get up really quick, and I'm going to go see if I can see it from my window here. I am very lucky to have Bluetooth headphones, so I can pop out and still talk to you guys.
And if you're curious on how to find it, so as you're looking west, you're going to see a bright dot on the lower horizon to the left. That's Venus. That's the planet Venus. And then up to the right, you're going to see another bright star. That's a star. So when you meet those two in the middle, that's where you're going to see the comet. It's going to be a little bit higher than Venus, but meet it right in the middle. You're going to see a faint white line in the sky. That's your tail. And then the nuclei of the comet will be just below that. You can see it with the naked eye. It is on the fainter side, though, but you can see it. If you have your camera, use a low or a high exposure setting. Same setting that you use to photograph the aurora. That'll pick up those light particles and compose them into a better photograph. That way, it'll appear much brighter in your photograph, closer to what you see with your naked eye, if not a little bit brighter. So that's my advice. I was out last night. I was able to see it with the naked eye. It is there. It is pretty cool. It appears stationary. It doesn't look like a meteorite. So a meteorite dashes, dissipates, it's gone in a few seconds. A comet though it's moving at the same velocity, it's so far away, it's going to appear stationary in the sky. And so that's another thing to take away from that. But
if
it
you
is
guys
pretty
do
cool.
happen to catch it, send us a picture if you want into
Yeah.
our private message on Facebook. We would love that.
Yeah, catch it now, because the next time this will be in proximity to Earth will be 80,000 years. So
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't think I'm going to be here in 80,000 years.
All right. Any other questions popping in here? Yes, Mike, the comet is, I'm not going to pronounce it. I just call it the A3 comet, but this is the official name for it.
Yep.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that's it right there on your screen.
Yep.
It's A3 for short, Atlas comet.
Yep. But it is pretty cool. If you have a chance to see it, I encourage you to do it. It is pretty cool. Summer asks, why is Tornado Alley prone to more tornadoes and severe weather? That's a good question, Summer. And a lot of that has to do with location. So those of you that don't know, the United States actually has the most tornadoes annually than any other country and any other place in the world globally. We are the tornado capital of the world. And the reason before that, or because of that, is because we have a very unique topography here in the continental United States. We have the Gulf of Mexico, that's the moisture. We have the Rocky Mountains to the west, that's your colder air. And we have the plains in the central United States that extend all the way up into Manitoba, Canada, all the way up there in Saskatchewan. So way up north are the Canadian prairies. And so those combination of factors allow for tornadogenesis to occur very, very easily here in the United States. So tornadoes need three things to develop. You have to have moisture, instability, cold air. And when those come together, they allow robust thunderstorms and rotation. And so one of the biggest reasons why is because of our topography on how when you have warm air transported from the Gulf, that's our moisture. And then you have downslope cold air or drier air from the Rocky Mountains, and you have cold Canadian air, Arctic air from the north. When those factors meet, they create a very unstable environment, and oftentimes some wind shear associated with that as well. That's your turning with winds with height and variations in speed. No other country has that unique topography and setup to get tornadoes to develop like we do here in the United States. So that's really the main reason why they see them. That's why they're most common here in the U.S. and across Tornado Alley. Typical Tornado Alley, you think of states like Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Texas. But what you don't know is there's different alleys scattered throughout the United States that are also prone to tornadoes and tornado outbreaks. Dixie Alley across the South, which includes Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. In the wintertime, they are Tornado Alley throughout the months of February and March, especially those 2 months, as they're closer to the Gulf. They're closer to accessing all of that moisture. So while we're stuck getting dumped on by snow, there's usually a severe aspect to those strong winter storms. And they're usually confined to the southern continental United States because they're closer, they're south of the warm front. They're close to the Gulf of Mexico. So they have that instability and moisture. While we get the snow, we get the leftovers. Now this map here is the 2024 annual tornado. These are confirmed tornadoes. Something to note here, you can kind of see a line right down the middle of the country here. So that is the Rocky Mountains. They form typically east of the Rocky Mountains in the plains. That's because that's where your intercept of that moisture gets intercepted by these cold fronts coming down across the Rocky Mountains. Those cold fronts meet the warm, moist air out ahead of them, combined with the cold air coming down out of Canada, and that creates a lot of spin, a lot of unstable air, and thus we get tornadoes. But can we get them here in the Midwest? Absolutely. We are just as part of Tornado Alley, just as the plains. Thankfully here, though, the tornadoes that we get here are generally weaker. EF0s, EF1s, EF2s. But can we get strong to violent tornadoes? Absolutely. They can form here, they have formed here, and they will continue to form here forever. That's just the realization of it. They can and they will. Am I grateful they don't the big ones don't form here as often as they do in other parts of the country? Absolutely. I don't want to see EF3 plus tornadoes here every year. I just don't. They cause a lot of damage, a lot of destruction, and they're very violent. But can we get them here? Absolutely. They do happen here. And what a lot of people don't know is that Michigan, on average, averages between 15 and 20 tornadoes annually every year. They're most common in the southern half of the state, but can they happen anywhere in the state? Absolutely. They've happened in the UP. They've happened in northern Michigan. Think of the EF3 Gaylord tornado that happened a couple years ago. That was an EF3 tornado in a place where most people don't think tornadoes happen, but they can.
Yep.
So, yep.
Speaking of Gaylord, we have a recap, a historical overview coming on that. So stay tuned. It'll be released in probably next week or so. It's going to be a really good video, guys. We're going to have a lot of information on that overall documentary style of how the day evolved. So we're working on that hard behind the scenes, and stay tuned for that if you like a historical.
And speaking of tornadoes, I know one of you asked, what's the difference between a scud cloud and a funnel cloud? Well, I found what I was looking for. So I'm going to pull that back up here and share my screen here. And so this is an example of a scud cloud. So first thing to take note here, look how ragged it is. It's not smooth. It's not uniform. It's not really organized. It's just there dangling under the base of the storm. This is the #1 cause for false reports and false tornado warnings being issued. This is the #1 culprit for that. The reason is they look scary. They're hanging down from the cloud. To the untrained eye, one might call that a tornado or a funnel cloud, but it's actually not. It's actually harmless. This is a scud cloud. All it is moisture being pulled up into the cloud. And you can tell that because it's ragged in nature. It's unorganized. It's not smooth. And if this were to be a video, you wouldn't see any rotation here. It's just there doing its thing. But if I move here to the left, this is what a tornado looks like. See how it's real smooth. It's condensated all the way to the ground. So when you have rotation into the mix, rotation allows the water vapor to condense tight, and that forms a very smooth cylindrical funnel. And that's because it's rotating. And so if I go back here, you can just visually see the difference here. Look how ragged that is. Look how smooth that is. So this is a mature tornado planted on the ground. And something you also see here, right in there, you can see some debris. That's some dirt getting kicked up. That's something you will not see here. Even if this appears all the way on the ground, there's no rotation. So you will never see dirt getting kicked up by a scud cloud. I promise you, it never happens and it won't happen. And here's another example of a funnel cloud. So there's your wall cloud there, but look how smooth it is. But this is not on the ground. There's no debris getting kicked up here, but look how smooth it is. So smooth is the main key identifier what differentiates a scud cloud from a tornadic cloud. And also, if you were to look at these two in person in a video, this would just dangle and this would spin. And that difference is very obvious if you see that in person. You can't mistake a rotating cloud versus a non when you actually stand in a fixed location and stare at it. So that's the main difference there. So.
Summer asked, do you guys collect data while chasing, wow. Do you guys collect data while chasing besides wind speeds? Yes, Summer. Wind speed, Caleb has a whole entire system on his truck. Wind speed, temperature, dew point, humidity, the whole nine.
I'm actually going to try to find something here to show you.
We actually have a video up on our YouTube showing off Caleb's truck and all the instrumentation he has. So if you want to go back, it should be one of the recent videos. If you were to go back to hit videos on our page, scroll down to vehicle tours, you'll find that video. But yes, we absolutely do. Absolutely.
Yep, and
Chandler has one as well.
Nut, so I love data. I'm a nerd. Give me a line graph any day, and I will be your friend for life.
I've known Caleb for 6 years or so.
Oh, at least.
I can confirm. I can confirm. I'm going to restart my camera here as we're getting blurry.
But I am going to show you. Here we go. So I'm going to share my screen here. So this is an example of what I see in the truck. And this is from a close range tornado intercept I was on here May 7th. So you guys remember the tornadoes that happened in lower Michigan that day? I was on one in Mercer County, Ohio. So just south of the line there. And something interesting to note here. So the blue line is pressure and the red line is temperature. So you can see here the pressure is really high. And then as I get into the exterior wind field of the tornado itself, it drops. But also something to note here, the temperature goes up. So tornadoes feed on warm, moist air. And as you're on the backside of the tornado, you're in the exhaust system of a thunderstorm. It's called RFD, and that's called rear flank downdraft. That's the backside downdraft on the backside of a supercell. Think of it as a supercell's exhaust system. That's the waste of the supercell coming out. It's cold, it's dry air. So that's why this temperature really drops, but also the pressure went up here a little bit too. But as I got closer to the tornado, inside the, I guess the outer wind field of the tornado itself, the pressure dropped and the temperature went up, which down here, when I'm in the rain-cooled air, at 64.5 degrees is kind of where it bottomed out. And then it shot up to 70 degrees here as I was in the outside of the wind field. But then look at this. As I moved into the wind or the inflow of the supercell, as the tornado was to the north of me, the temperature shot up even more, close to 75 degrees. That's that warm, moist air moving into the storm. That's your inflow, your fuel. So very interesting to note here. And then the pressure just continued to rise back to where it was earlier in the day. So yeah, we do collect data, and that data is very important for research. And it also gives us a good idea about what is going on within the storm. That way we can better interpret it so that we can learn from it and adapt from it. But yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Also want a quick shout out here as we're nearing close to an hour, and that's about what we're going to cut off at here in a few minutes. But overall, great podcast so far. Before I forget though, Cats Roofing and Siding is the sponsor of our YouTube videos. So quick shout out to them. The number's on your screen there, 517-485-9886. If you live in South Central Michigan, Lansing, Battle Creek, Jackson areas, and you need a new roofing, siding, gutters, windows, feel free to give Cats a shout. Again, numbers on your screen there. Website is cats.com. Feel free, or catsroofing.com.
Yep.
If you do happen to call them, tell them that we sent you. They'll appreciate that, as would we. And again,
Absolutely.
Thank you to Cats. Thank you to Cats for sponsoring our videos.
All right. Any other questions you guys have here?
Yep. We have a few more minutes here to take some more questions, so feel free. We typically want to make these run about an hour or so in length. Don't want to deviate too far outside that. So if you have some more questions here, feel free to drop those in chat. I see a question. Are phone compasses accurate? Overall, I'd say yes, for the most part. There are some things that can interfere sometimes, but for the most part, yeah, they're fairly accurate.
It'll get you pretty close.
Yeah. Why do we call it naked eye? It's not like we put a shirt or pants on it. You know, that's funny. That's funny. Naked eye visible. I think it's self-explanatory there. You can see it with your own eyes. People call it, naked eye just because it's visible with your eyes. You don't need something like a phone or a telescope or binoculars to see.
Yep. So here's a good question from. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Isaac asked, what weather station resonant do you have, and how do you get those graphs?
Yeah, so I have a Davis Vantage Pro 2. It's made by Davis Instruments. I have that mounted on the truck. We had a video on it a while back. Feel free to, I encourage you to go back and look at that. You can see that, kind of see how it works a little bit, what components are a part of that instrument pack. But that's what I use. And then the graphs come with it as well as you collect that data. So it's all part of the kit, all part of the package. You just have to be out there to collect it. Jack Attack asks, are tornado and severe thunderstorm watches issued based on weather conditions or SPC outlooks? Ryan, do you want to handle that one?
A combination of things. Mainly, it has to be a good environment across a large area. And what I mean by a good environment is we're not looking at, there's a few things here. No, it's the days where everything is there for severe weather across a bigger area. The watches and warnings, their watches, should I say, come directly from the Storm Prediction Center, SPC. And usually that's coordinated with local offices. Now, warnings, however, are issued by local offices. So it's a little bit different there. But yes, watches come usually based on when all the ingredients, the shear, the lift, instability, and moisture are there for a long period of time over a larger area.
Yep. Good question there. All right. Any other questions?
See a $50 super chat here from Beagle Brew. MSC is filling a huge gap in our local weather coverage. Giving Michiganders real-time information at this level is nothing less than heroic. Appreciate you, and thank you for your donation. It's very generous of you. We are happy to be here. We love doing this. This is not, even though we utilize this as our, so to speak, job, it doesn't feel like a job for us. This is something that we love to do. We wake up, we love what we do every single day. It's not a job for us.
It's our passion.
Yeah.
So.
We're not going anywhere either. So we are here to stay and only want to go up from here. We have a lot of things planned, a lot of improvements, a lot of things we're excited for next year. And you guys will see in time, but unfortunately we can't talk about it now, but we have so much stuff planned. It's going to benefit not only you guys, but also Michigan and also the region as well.
Yep. Caprice asks, do you guys think we will experience a polar vortex this year? The answer is yes. That occurs every year. However, right now, we're just not sure the severity of it, what phases it's going to be in. But the polar vortex, or the Arctic oscillation, or the AO, is its official name. And that's a natural occurring jet stream. It's the polar jet stream. Really, it's forming right now. As the temperatures cool down in the stratosphere, in the upper troposphere, that condenses, and that starts the development or the tightening of that polar oscillation, or the Arctic oscillation, or the polar vortex. But right now, we're still a few weeks out from issuing our winter outlook. We'll have that out here, hopefully the first part of November. Here in the early part of the podcast, kind of went over on how we look at that, how we decide what that is. So we should have some more information on that here in the coming weeks as we get that data in.
Caleb, here's a question for you. What causes thunder snow?
Oh,
that's a great question, Rhombus.
I was waiting for this. All right, Rhombus. So thunder snow forms very similar to a thunderstorm. That's basically what it is. It's the same process as in a thunderstorm that occur for thunder snow. You have to have particle collision. Oftentimes, thunder snow, I guess the best dynamics that I understand for thunder snow to occur, you need something called grapple. So for those of you that don't know what grapple is, so when you have snowflakes in a thunderstorm that fall through a layer of liquid water droplets, and these are tiny little invisible droplets, but they're liquid. They're super cooled, meaning the temperature of those water droplets are below 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. As those snowflakes fall through them, they collect them, so they become basically a slush ball in the snowstorm. And when you get intense convective snow bands, you get an updraft, just like what you do in a general thunderstorm in the summertime, and that updraft picks those up. And you also have particle collision, charge separation, but the grapple really helps that static build within that convective snow band, and you can get thunder snow. And I'm going to try to find a photo here. A couple years ago, I had the privilege of photographing and getting on video probably the best thunder snow lightning strike I've ever seen in my life. And it struck next to me in the field. And if you've never experienced thunder snow, I've seen it a few times. Probably the coolest thing that you'll notice is in a general thunderstorm, it appears white. In thunder snow, it's a blue flash, almost like turquoise. The way the light scatters in the snow is very eerie. And also, the thunder is different too. The way the sound waves bounce off the snowflakes, it makes a different sound. If you're close to it, sometimes it's louder to some people. To other people, it's almost condensed a little bit or muffled. It's a very unique sound and a very unique experience. But they can happen just like in a regular thunderstorm, but you just have to have all the dynamics come together for that to happen. But it is a very cool and very unique experience. So I hope that answers your question. I'm going to try to find that photo here for you if I can. I'll let Ryan look for some more questions here while I'm trying to find that for you.
Well, my dad asked a good question. Where'd the ducks go? And the answer is we had interviews today with people from certain areas. We're not going to mention where, but we had interviews today with people who experienced tornadoes. It's all part of our series we're making on YouTube right now. I didn't want those in the background. I want to make it more professional looking. So those came down and they're back up now. All right. I don't see any other questions besides one from Joshua here. Where do we think severe weather is done for the season? I'm going to say it's a good chance it is. I would say we'll probably have maybe one more chance here between now and the end of the year. Overall, fall season doesn't look to be very active. We were hoping it may have been, but from a chase perspective, obviously.
Yeah.
But right now, I think we have probably one or two more shots at it. But overall, we're just not pushing systems through to build stability, nothing like that. So I'm going to say pretty low chance.
Not that we can't get it this time of year. It's just a lot harder to get those dynamics to come together to form severe weather. Now, severe weather can form in any month of the year in the Midwest. It's just really hard to get everything together this time of year to get severe weather. A lot of times you're lacking your instability and moisture. It's a lot harder to get that northward rather in the summertime. And I did find that thunder snow picture. I'm going to put it up here for you. This is the CG I was able to catch during a thunder snow event. This actually was in northern Indiana. This was not in Michigan when I took this. This day, I'll kind of give you the play-by-play here, what we were looking at here. This was a very unique day. So this was actually in early March. And this day, temperature was the name of the game. So at the surface, temperatures were 40 degrees above zero. We were 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But if you go a few thousand feet up in the air, 10,000 feet plus, we were minus 30. It was very, very cold aloft. And that temperature gradient really made for an ideal environment for robust thunderstorms. But the air was so cold, so shallow, that the snow didn't have time to melt before it hit the ground. So when you're in the core of these storms, the air actually went from 40 degrees to about 30 degrees. So it was very heavy grapple. Probably some of the largest grapple I had ever seen in my life were in the storms. If you've ever seen grapple, sometimes it's referred to as popcorn snow or Dippin' Dots, usually really small. They bounce. They kind of look like hailstones, but they're not. They're actually just wet snowflakes that have a little bit of a slush factor to them. But the grapple was able to bounce around long enough in this thunderstorm to where it goes through a process called riming. That's what creates grapple. As it's bouncing around, it bounces into those super cold water droplets and it just gets bigger. Similar process to how hail is formed, but this is grapple. And it actually rhymed to the point where we're talking quarter-sized grapple. I mean, it was insane. The largest grapple I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if I'll ever see it get that big again. And and that grapple chart caused a lot of static electricity in that cloud. And we're able to get lightning strikes. So this is thunder snow. It's snowing very hard in this picture here. You can see the snowflakes on my windshield here. But yeah, a very intense lightning bolt there. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I was very excited when I was able to capture this. So yeah, thunder snow can happen, and if you're able to see it, it's a very cool and very unique experience. Jack Attack asks, can hail occur in snowstorms? Generally, no. The reason for that is it's oftentimes a little too cold. You don't have the updrafts quite strong enough for hail development. Now, in this storm here, this one is kind of a one-off. there were actually pea-sized hail in this storm, true hail. And that just goes to the show how strong the updraft was in this thunderstorm. But in most snowstorms, no, you will not see hail in a snowstorm. There's a lot of reasons for that. But the main reason is because we don't have the updraft strength for hail. And also you don't have the large amount of liquid water for hail to form as it gets bounced around. So hail does not form in a snowstorm typically. Now, snowflakes can vary in size in a snowstorm depending on temperature, moisture, and stuff like that. And you can get snowflake changes from being very, very small to being very, very fat, but you won't see hailstones, no. Any other questions here, guys, before we call it a night? We probably have time for a couple more here before we call it. Been on here for about an hour now, so we'll probably do 2 more here before we sign off.
Isaac asks, are we going to be working on a 2024 recap video? Yes, we are. We actually just started on that last night.
Yep.
We're gathering footage from our partners, from our chasers, and also from our streams. And we're going to put together a hopefully a good lengthy recap video of best moments of 2024, or perhaps most intense moments of 2024. We're going to try and throw together all of the tornadoes that we've covered live, which should be every single one. And then also kind of perspective our chasers, and it's all going to tie in. You'll see eventually.
Yeah.
But
it'll pretty cool.
I have a plan in mind. It's just I got to put it together.
All right, we got time here for one more question here. So feel free to put that.
Yeah, Dawn, that will be in the video. No worries. I have a few things in mind already for him. Don't tell him. I don't know if he's watching this or not, but don't tell him. If he is, I'm going to get a message from him here pretty soon. But I have a few ideas what we can do about that.
That'll be our secret, okay? All right. Do one more question here.
Isaac, I may use.
So if you guys have a
there's a delay right now between Caleb and I. I think we just lost Caleb. We'll wait for him to pop back on here. His internet's been down for a good portion of the day. So we'll let him get back on. We'll go ahead and end this here. But Jack Attack asked a good question here. What is the most dangerous winter event? Honestly, ice storms. That's probably the most dangerous, because once you get ice accumulation, it knocks out power, takes down trees, stuff like that. So yes, that's your most intense or most dangerous winter event. Joshua asked, do we go live for snowstorms? Yes, we do. We'll do briefings just like we do for severe weather. We won't do long form though. It'll be shorter. So we don't do coverage like we do severe weather. But yes, we do go live for winter. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this up right here. So thanks for watching. Caleb just texted me saying you lost internet, can't connect back. So we'll go ahead and end it right here, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. We do this every single night at Wednesday, 7 p.m. So come back. Hey, he's back.
I am back. Sorry, missed you guys.
I was just wrapping it up here. I didn't think you were going to come back. But
internet decided to let me back on. So
well, we do this every single Wednesday night. So if you guys want to come back and watch, we'll have another episode for you guys next week. We're going to be diving into some deeper topics eventually. We just want to get the Q&As out of the way. We actually love talking and interacting with you guys. So if you guys got Q&A, we can do a Q&A all the time. I don't really care. I like it. I like it a lot.
Just anytime we get a chance to talk weather, we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So feel free to come back Wednesday, 7 p.m. And we'll do a giveaway actually next week as well. We'll do a weather radio giveaway if you guys want to come back and enter for that. But for tonight, that's going to do it. Be sure to hit a like on your way out, and hope to see you guys next week.
Absolutely. And again, guys, thank you for joining us and spending your evening here with us. It's a privilege to be able to have this time to talk to you guys, hang out with you guys, and just ultimately have a good time. That's what it's about. So with that being said, have a good evening, guys, and we'll see you all next week.